Hi, it's me, and that's him, and we're the Sci-Fi Scholars.
And we're talking The Flash. Obviously, if you have not seen Season 2 of The Flash, or even Season 1, we will be spoiling it for you.
So if you haven't seen Season 1, but you have seen Season 2, well, it's your own problem, because you've spoiled it for yourself.
But either way, if you want to stay spoiler-free, don't watch this.
Basically, yeah.
Now that you're back after watching it all, Season 2 was another good solid season for The Flash. Like, I didn't feel like this blew Season 1 out of the water, but it was not a step down in any way, shape or form. No. It felt like Season 1, then Season 2. Yeah. More of the same, but in a good way.
Yeah.
So nothing bad, like, per se. It just felt...
yeah, if you're a fan of the first season, you'll be a fan of the second season. Like,
yeah, it kept with the quality. It didn't go up in... It didn't go up in epicness in any way, shape, or form, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because how epic Season 1 was.
Yeah, it started off really strong and stayed really strong.
Which I wasn't going to do this, but brings me into probably what was the best episode, was the one where Barry goes back to when he sees Reverse Flash, and Reverse Flash figures out that he's actually from this future when he wants to learn more about the Speed Force. I thought that was a really cool episode that tied really well to Season 1. And that probably was, from memory, like the one that I enjoyed the most. For me.
Yeah. I thought a lot of the characters were really well done. Yes. I really enjoyed Spivot as...
Loved her character.
As a character. And the chemistry she had with Barry. Like,
that was killer.
Throughout the series, Barry has had this kind of thing with Iris... he's had feelings for her, and you've seen that consistently for the first part. Now, not so much, but there's not been the two-way chemistry there. Like, it's not been a relationship. Obviously, I can see they're close. They work well as the siblings that they set them up in this universe as.
Yes,
but not the romance isn't there.
And I don't think it should be. That's one of the gripes I've had with this Season 2 is Iris is now in love with Barry, but it doesn't feel
she seems like... No, it seems to me she's like, oh, that's the future. I guess we should be doing this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the way it comes across, but I don't reckon that's their intention of writing it. Yeah. I think they're trying to set up Barry and Iris as the couple that they always end up being, even in the comics. So it worked with Laurel and Oliver, because in the comics they're on again, off again, on again, off again. They're never really together, but then they're together and then they're not together. Whereas Barry almost always ends up with Iris, and so that was what they were always going to do. But then you brought in Spivot as like, we don't want to put them together yet.
And then Spivot worked really, really, really well.
Too well for the writers, I feel, because...
And they got rid of her.
Yeah. Well, one, they got rid of her, which I feel like was always their plan, but it then makes any, sparks that she's meant to have with Iris not feel like anything.
Yeah. Well, and then you also have the other relationship, Wally and Jesse, and there's sparks there.
There's way more chemistry between those two than...
they should have completely ignored the Iris-Barry thing.
Especially for now. I feel
she should have been like, yep, I acknowledge that there's this thing, apparently, that we're in the future together and whatever.
But I'm not there.
She's like, whatever, that's the future. They could have always left it as they were together in the future and never had them together in the show. And that's part of the way, in the finale, when Jesse's like, I'm going back to Earth 2, I'm like, but that...
Yeah.
Obviously now, Barry's gone back in time and reset things. Season 2, they can keep Jesse and Harry... Season 3. Yeah, sorry, the next season. They can keep Jesse and Harry with everyone on Earth 1.
I really hope they do, because I really, really like Harry, who's Harrison Wells.
Yeah.
Earth 2 Harrison Wells. They just call him Harry. And Cisco's, their vibe.
I like Cisco as vibe.
So do I. But I really like their chemistry in a non-sexual way.
Yeah.
Particularly in the second half of the season, when they've gone, hey, Harry's actually on our team, and they start working really, really well together. And then there's the goodbye with Harry, and he's just like... Cisco's like, don't be surprised if I project myself over to you all the time to move your shit.
and he's like, that's fine.
He's like...
But before, early in the season, he's like, if you come anywhere near me, I'm going to yell at you. If you move my stuff, I'm going to yell at you. Yeah. Obviously, he was overly stressed about how he was going to betray everyone and,
he
take down Zoom.
He didn't want to get connections.
But Yeah, because the first part he was only focusing on saving his daughter.
And I really want those two to be in season 3.
Yeah.
I don't care how they do it as long as they bring him in.
And I kind of hope that obviously going forward, people are going to lose, like Cisco and stuff are going to lose some of their progression for a while at least.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
With this, they're kind of adapted the Flashpoint paradox.
Yeah,
obviously it'll be slightly different because it's the TV show and they're not using all the characters.
Yeah,
but yeah, the fact that he's gone back in time and saved his mum.
Yeah,
in the comics with Flashpoint paradox means he doesn't end up with his powers in the future, but has memory of the other timeline.
Yeah, which is going to be interesting to see who else has powers and who else has memories. Like, maybe Cisco will be Vibe, maybe Caitlin will be evil Killer Frost.
Oh, we don't know. I mean, I'm excited for that.
I kind of hope at some point they're going to bring in Wally as having speed,
and
not
Jesse.
just being and Jesse, and not just being in car races. It would be really cool if throughout the thing when Barry gets his powers back for the 3rd time, kind of, that if Wally and Jesse also have speed, or they have speed before him, or whatever.
However they do it, it would be cool to them to have speed.
Yeah.
But yeah, that brings to a point that I didn't like, but it still led to a cool episode with the Speed Force was Barry losing his powers. I don't like it when every show seems to do it. If they have a superpowered being, they lose their powers at some point. And while in the first season, the Flash just was malnourished.
Which was hilarious.
I was like, okay, he's not technically lost his powers. He's just doesn't have the energy to run that fast anymore. So I was like, okay, I can forgive that. That's okay. And in this one, it kind of made sense because he gave up his powers to save someone. But it was still like, really, you're going to make him lose his powers? Something I really don't like. It did lead into a really cool Speed Force episode.
Yeah. The Speed Force has been interesting, though, because now the Speed Force made him basically deal with his giving up his mother thing to have his powers, in that episode. But now he's gone back and changed stuff. So the Speed Force is kind of sentient anyway, and be like, you're an idiot, Barry.
Oh, really? I mean, and I feel like the only reason he actually did go back and save his mum was because, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know why he just didn't go back and save his dad, but because of his dad's death, and then the reveal of the man in the Iron Mask, big spoiler, was Earth 3 doppelganger of his dad.
Yeah.
And I felt like he had got past his dad, well, not past it, but was willing to accept that his dad's dead and move on. But as soon as he saw his dad again as Jay Garrick,
and
the
so
Flash,
so shortly afterwards,
you saw him just break down and walk out and just lose himself. And I feel like if that never happened, he would never have gone back in time to save his mum.
Yeah, and you see him earlier in the episode, he was heartbroken, he was being a bit crazy, so they locked him up, and that worked well.
Yes,
and it also worked well with Wally letting him out. And
yes, I would tell you. Another thing I really liked about the season was they did Gorilla Grodd and King Shark.
I want Grodd to come back.
I really felt like they pulled him off. I'm like, the CG was better. Like, probably some of the best CG in the show was both Gorilla Grodd and King Shark. Like, they pulled it off really, really well, and I really enjoyed them as characters.
Grodd's good for me.
I think Grodd should come back. King Shark, I wouldn't mind if he didn't. I feel like he's kind of done and dusted. It'd be cool if he did, but I feel like Grodd should definitely.
But Grodd is in my opinion, a fuller character anyway. He's got a lot more stuff that you can do with him.
And he's slowly becoming more like his comic counterpart, which I really like.
Yeah, and obviously the whole Flashpoint thing, like everyone's technically back and not back, and no one's.
We don't know what they're going to do. That'll be interesting.
So time travel messes things up.
And another thing with the CG was there were some pretty ambitious shots, particularly in the finale.
But at the same time, you kind of want to go for them because if you can pull them off, it's great.
They didn't quite pull them off. Like it was obvious how it was all CG, and then I was like, "Hey, look, we're back to live action." For me, it took me out a little bit, and I was still like, "Wow, that's an ambitious shot." It wasn't like, "Oh, that's an awesome, cool shot." It was "Wow, that's an ambitious shot" for me.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're pushing the boundaries for a TV show with that sort of stuff. But yeah, that was just one of the small things I felt for.
Yeah. So overall, it was a great season, and the finale. Yes. The finale opens up for a lot of possibilities for season 2.
It does.
And it's going to be really interesting to see how they, resolve their finale and lead into season 3.
It's exciting stuff. Looking forward to it. Thanks for watching.
See you next time.